Hey all, this is Xenoxis. So I decided to change a bit on the microphone. I decided to go into the recording program and set because there is a thing that lets you increase the audio volume, and then I had it on high and I have changed it out to be on low instead, like the amount that it increases. You know, maybe it will fix the popping. I mean, the reason why I put the sock on you remember, like I talked a long time about ago, like it was several years ago when I started putting the sock on the microphone, because that helped with the whole popping and stuff that, right? But if you have seen like a lot of videos that are obviously PC recorded, right, that aren't like recorded on PlayStation, right, you know that those videos had no problem with the sound, and then all of a sudden, right, when I started recording the guide videos, right, the microphone started popping for whatever weird reason. And it's not that I changed to high on that audio setting recently. I've had that on for a very, very long time, because that just helps. The voice becomes way louder than normal, and maybe it has to do with the distance that I am from the microphone, right? Because normally I have the gain always on the highest, but yeah. So I did do a bunch of runs actually yesterday and stuff that, right? And I managed to actually do other variants of the poison build and stuff that. So if you can see here, for example, yes, I've unlocked Vlad, for example, as you can see, and stuff that, right? And also on Fox, I have done tier 2 run and stuff that, so yeah. And for example, on Amog here, you can see, I have, I mean, I had those unlocked before, where I did unlock them when I had a really good run that I did, of course, the tier 2 run that I did on the forest, but yeah. And then I did a bunch of attempts on Tony Maxum, and I managed to get the 50,000 kills one on Tony Maxum and stuff like that, but yeah. But I want to show you first, before we begin with the guide itself properly. You can see here, yeah, I have there's a two tier 2 clear here, with both Amog and with Fox. With Fox though, and with Tony Maxum, I actually went with the damage tome instead, and on Fox I actually, aside from the fire staff which he starts with, I also went for the lightning staff, because the lightning staff can actually projectile bounce. The fire staff cannot projectile bounce, so there is a limit to the amount of stuff that are projectile bounce in the game. You can see the amount of kills there on the tier 2 there, like yeah, so 9,289 kills and stuff that, which is pretty decent. Now forest there, tier 1 here, that which is my newest like kill record on the tier 1 stage, is with Vlad. So yeah, so Vlad was like really good, because almost like 8,000 kills, I found that to be pretty impressive. And I'm pretty certain that there were people that back in the day, before they would nerf like evasion, there were probably people that just built like insane amount of evasion, and then they could just get really high kills even on the first stage. But it is pretty hard to get a lot of kills on the first stage, because it's really hard to just get very powerful very quickly. And of course, there were a bunch of stuff that I got that I managed to like turn off, and here you can see the tier 3 here, that's the Amog clearly, and that is the most amount of kills there, 30,000 and 8k there, so almost 31k. Almost, you know, and stuff that, so yeah. Which I'm pretty happy with. I know it's not super lot, because, you know, I think you need, what is it 200,000 kills you need for one of the hats? Because there are like, if we go in and check, so basically on the unlocks here, like there were a bunch of extra unlocks that I got that I had to like turn off and stuff that, right? So once I unlocked the Dragon Breath, I turned that off and stuff that, yeah. But Lightning Staff is another one that can break the bounce, as you can see here. So if you see here on the weapons here, this one, Lightning Staff can projectile bounce, and Bone can projectile bounce, Revolver can projectile bounce. Yeah, and you used to think the Banana Rank can projectile bounce, but apparently it cannot. Yeah, and it's Sniper Rifle cannot projectile bounce, because useful stats means that it wouldn't show up projectile bounce here unless the weapon can projectile bounce. I'm pretty certain the Space Noodle probably can projectile bounce, is what I'm guessing. And you can see Valstagger can projectile bounce. But aside from that, that is pretty much all of the weapons that can projectile bounce. The Poison Flask itself cannot, sadly, projectile bounce. You would think that the dice would have projectile bounce on it, but it does not. And stuff that's, yeah. Which is important. I don't know if the site can projectile bounce either. And stuff that, but yeah. As you can see, the weapons I went for having active, of course, was Revolver, Water Stagger, Poison Flask, Although technically you don't need to have Poison Flask on if you're running Amog and stuff that, right? But you can still leave it on and stuff that, but yeah. So you go with Revolver, you go with Wireless Dagger, you go with Poison Flask, which you of course you start with. And then you went for because that's 3 weapons, right? Yeah, that's 3 weapons, and then you went with Bone and stuff that. Now tomes wise, you went for Quantity Tome, Armor Tome, Duration Tome, and Attack Speed. Now as I said, I've done different versions of the build where I've replaced the Duration Tome specifically with Damage Tome instead. The armor is very important because the armor can actually make you survive a pretty long time once you get to decent values and stuff like that. And the whole idea was, of course, that yes, with poison, like at first I talked about this in part 1, that I wanted to make it just, you know, I wanted to make it just, you know, like what do you call it? I wanted to make it used a poison only build, which meant that I only went like with Aegis, and then the only real weapon that is an actual poison weapon in the game, which is just a Poison Flask, because I mean there's a Flame Walker, there's a Frost Walker, there's no like moldy boots or like stink boots or whatever, right? You know, and there's no like garlic aura or whatever that could maybe be poison damage, you know, and stuff like that, right? Like there are things that they couldn't have. I mean, they could have had like a rotten banana or something like that. That could have been like another poison weapon and stuff like that. But yeah, from my understanding of poison, that the more stuff you have that can cause poison, the stronger the poison effect gets. Which is why having, but I don't think that each of the, for example, if you have several molluscs, I don't think that each mollusc applies its own stack of poison. Instead, it just takes all the stacks together and stuff like that. But you need to hit. It's like if you have like seven molluscs, all molluscs won't apply at once sometimes, because you know, yeah, it's a 40% chance and it needs to roll that 40% chance and it needs to be successfully some hit, right? Because it is 40% right on the 40% chance to poison enemies on hit. And of course, let's not forget also about the fact that Amog has Plague, Poison, poison the enemies, explode on death, poisoning nearby enemies also gain 1% poison damage per level, which you cannot see, of course, obviously. So the higher he gets, the better the poison will be and stuff like that. And yeah, and the goal is of course the fact that yes, more projectile counts will be good for pretty much all of these weapons, right? Yeah, Revolver benefits from projectile count, Wireless Dagger benefits from projectile count, Poison Flask benefits from projectile count, and Bone benefits from projectile counts. But yeah, now does that mean that I won't do a bounce build eventually? Maybe I will still do a bounce build eventually and stuff like that. And of course, if it would just be a bounce build, then instead of the Poison Flask, it would then be with the Lightning Staff, Bone, Revolver, and Wireless Dagger, because those are the only weapons that can quote Projectile Bounce. And Projectile Bounce is of course really powerful, but the idea was, the reason why I went with the Projectile Bounce and I decided to make it a hybrid build. Right. I mean, I should have put that in the comment on the first, not on the first poison video I did, but on the previous guide. The one with that was the evasion build and stuff that I should have on that one, instead of explaining it that oh, this is a poison build. I mean, it is, majority of it is poison, but the thing is that all bounce just makes it easier to apply poison to several enemies, because the bounce can really help you against swarms of enemies and stuff like that. Because the way Projectile Bounce works is, of course, you don't start with the Projectile Bounce immediately. The weapon doesn't bounce immediately when it's level 1. You need to get a level up that changes it from 0 to 1 Projectile Bounce, because no weapon starts with a single Projectile Bounce. And I mean, like, it would be a huge buff, right, if every single one of the Projectile Bounce weapons would start with a single Projectile Bounce immediately, because I'm pretty certain that all of the Projectile Bounce weapons starts with 0 Projectile Bounces. It won't bounce at the start. You need to gain a level when it says that the Projectile Bounce is going from 0 to 1 and stuff like that. And when you have 1 Projectile Bounce, that means that when it hits an enemy, boom, it will Projectile Bounce 1 time. And stuff like that. Which of course means that the more projectile count you have, the more projectiles you shoot out, the more bounce you technically get and stuff like that, right? Which is something that makes it really good. Which is why I thought, like, okay, like Quantity Tome is gonna be insane because it's gonna shoot more projectiles. Then with attack speed, you will be able to, like with more projectile count, you will also be able to apply poison more quickly. You will be able to apply more stacks of poison quicker and quicker, meaning you will do like a lot of damage, and more attack speed, you will be attacking quicker, and that will apply poison quicker. And then if you get gas mask, which gives you overhealing, like the more stuff that is infected with poison, the more like overhealing you have, and the more overhealing you have, the more your health will go up and stuff like that was the whole idea. And then since you can see here, Amog starts already with like 10% armor right from the get-go, which is pretty damn good. And stuff like that with 10% armor and stuff like that. Like so Shadow of course also gets 20% armor. Seraph gets 15% armor, so they have better armor and stuff like that. But the fact that you gain 10% armor is pretty good. You also start with a 1.2 size and stuff like that on Amog as well and stuff like that. So yeah. Now keep in mind that some of these stats, like the plus, I believe is what like recent buffs have been and stuff like that, right? Because there is one, like for example on Vlad, that 1.04 movement speed shows up at +0, but Fox with 1.04 means that yes, he's 4% faster than what the base stat is, because the base stat movement speed on a lot of characters is like 1.0 and stuff like that. But yeah, there are several characters that are slow. But the fact that Megashad doesn't feel slow, even though he's 0.95, and Ogre feels so much slower than Megashad for some reason. But yeah. But anyway, when it comes to the items here, as you can see, the only green items that I activated was the key to have more chances to get keys, and then battery, because battery use stacks up very quickly. Now I will say that this is misleading, right? For my understanding, like a lot of people say, oh, but it multiplies the XP several times, but maybe that is wrong, right? Because I learned, of course, that I've talked about that I've got the Spaceman wrong, that this 1.1 XP gain, which you think should be 10%, right? Because of how the XP gain works, right? That 1.1 should mean that he has like 10% XP gain, and Robinette having gold gain 1.1 here should mean that it's 10%. But no, that's just 5%, and then they're rounding it up for whatever reason, right? So since 5% gives you 1.1, right, that have made people think that, oh, since 5% means that it shows up as 1.1, then that means that when it gives you 8%, people think that you're gaining 10% because of how it shows up. So it's completely misleading with how much XP gain you're actually getting. Meaning when you're at 10% XP gain, you're not a 10% XP gain. You're 0.5 XP gain away. Or something like that, from being at the actual maximum. But like, why do they make it misleading like that? Like why couldn't it show up as, like, what would it be, right? It would have to be like 1.05. If it would show up as 1.05, then it would show up as like 5% XP gain, which is what Spaceman is getting, which is what Robinette is getting in gold gain, is 5% as well, and stuff like that. But it shows up as 1.1, making you think that it was 10%. That's why I thought that it was 10% and stuff like that, right? And stuff like that, and like Spaceman is still insane, right? Because of that whole XP gain thing, which there is a special build. The R-Maxing build that I'm planning to do is going to be on Spaceman, by the way, so yeah. But anyway, so those are the only greens I have active. Now, when it comes to blue, there is quite a lot here that is active. I didn't mean to turn on that. But yeah, Leeching Crystal is off, Idle Use is off, Brass Knuckles are off, and Golden Sneakers are off. Moldy Gloves are on, Echo Shard is on, Demonic Blood is on, and Demonic Blade is on, and then all the other ones here are on. Now, when it comes to what stuff you want to, like, banish, Borgar is definitely recommended. Clover you can banish, although I do recommend that you take Clovers, but specifically only when you're playing on Fox. Oats you use banish, you banish Golden Glove, or you banish Medkit. Then there are certain blues that you can banish, but you want to probably get one of it. You can banish Bear if you happen to get like Chonk Plates and stuff like that, because I do have Chonk Plates on, but you can see here, for example, I've turned Solar Harvester off and Blood Cleaver when I like unlock them and stuff like that, right? So yeah, this is pretty important. This one I should probably be able to do as well. Although technically I believe Wizard Task would technically be easier to do if I only go with 2 weapons. Then that would probably be easier to go for. and stuff like that, but yeah. And yeah, Echo Shard is very, very good because it's 12% chance to spawn like XP Shard when killing an enemy. And supposedly they have made it so that this XP Shard is larger, so it will be easier to tell it apart. And 12% is still a pretty high chance, to be honest. And I'm pretty certain that, for example, like Overpowered Lamp, this counts as a proc. And while it's technically not a weapon proc, right? I believe like everything that has like a proc chance, it doesn't need to be a one-hit proc chance. But I still think that this goes up to 13%, right? But the maximum overpowered lamps I believe is 2, because that was nerfed at some point to 2 overpowered lamps. There is technically a way to get 3, but it requires it to show up on I believe it requires it to show up on a Moai or on a merchant or whatever it is, and then it requires you to find one on the stage. But it requires you to basically get one. You need to get one overpowered lamp on the first stage, or whatever it is, and then, or technically you could get all 3 on the first stage. You would need to find 2 overpowered lamps in a chest, and then 1 would need to be on a merchant. And then you would have to wait with picking up the thing on a merchant. You would have to check a merchant and say, okay, this merchant has the overpowered lamp. Then you wait with getting that. I believe it can also show up on a Moai, and that would still work. So if the overpowered lamp shows up on a Moai or on a merchant, wait with getting it and then get 1 first. So that, but if it shows up on the Moai, then I believe that 100% it won't show up on the merchant. It can show up on one of these and stuff. That's yeah. Now I never got the molded gloves during the run. That was really good and stuff that. Although technically I believe I did have molded gloves, but then because I went with duplicating the Echo Shard and stuff that, which is really good. And stuff that, but yeah, because of that I did manage to lose my molded gloves, I believe. Because molded glove is upon hitting an enemy, and that's a poison effect. And stuff that. And then when it comes to purple, I did have Slaughter Cannon on, because Slaughter Cannon is actually quite a lot of DPS, because it spawns missiles when you kill enemies. And I believe that the Slaughter Cannon's missile is actually affected by Projectile count. I'm not 100% certain, but it feels like that, because it feels like there are way more than normal. Yeah, Toxic Barrel is toxic waste upon taking damage, and it says poisoning all nearby enemies, so it does count as a poison effect. And of course this is insane, right, because the build will get a lot of armor, and then because you have a lot of armor, then that means that you can get hit a lot and stuff that, which makes that good. Gamma Sticker crits have a 50% chance to explode, and nearby enemies for 50% damage, which makes that good. And Gas Mask gain armor, because yes, you gain more armor and overheal for every enemy infected with poison. Meaning, of course, like the quicker you attack, the better it gets. And Power Glove, of course, is technically like an aura effect, like 8% chance upon hitting an enemy to get a giant blast, damaging and knocking away enemies. And stuff that's, yeah. So, yeah. I did, of course, turn off Speedy Boy, I did turn off Energy Core, and stuff that, and then, of course, these I turned off when I unlocked them and stuff that. Stack is very important. So apply 4 stacks of poison, that's just when you hit. You get a 5% chance to instantly burst all the poison damage when hitting an enemy, which means it takes every single different poison effect. So, Snake counts as its own poison effect. Toxic Barrel counts as its own poison effect. Molded Gloves counts as its own poison effect. Molded Fist counts as its own poison effect. And then the weapon itself, the Poison Flask, counts as its own poison effect. Now there is of course no Poison Tome here, but it definitely looks like why would there be so much room here unless they are planning to do more tomes and stuff that. And I've said this due to the fact of how powerful Chaos Tome is, right? Because the most powerful tomes in the game is Chaos Tome, Curse Tome, XP Tome, and Luck Tome. Well, technically it's also Damage Tome, because Damage Tome can use carry you. Now, of course, crit chance is really good as well, but there is no crit damage totem, as I've said, and there is no Projectile Bounce totem either, which would be good, because of course, if you take Projectile Bounce totem, it wouldn't all of a sudden add Projectile Bounce to weapons that don't have it, right? It's from my understanding how it works. So, right, because all weapons don't have crit chance, right? Yeah, Flamewalker cannot crit, Sword cannot crit, right? Because even if you get crit chance, right, it doesn't give crit to weapons that don't have it. So yeah, so there's a bunch of weapons that do not have crit chance. So the first weapon, and I'm gonna see if it's true that all the crit chance weapons have crit damage. Okay, so crit chance and crit damage is on the bone. It's on the bone. It's on the bow. It's on the revolver. It's on the... not on the sniper. Oh yeah, there are weapons that have crit chance but do not have crit damage. Slutty Rocket is one that has crit chance but does not have crit damage. Of course they added crit damage to the shotgun. I don't know if it had crit chance before, but that was of course when they buffed it. And one part of the buff is also, I believe they added more pellets to it as well. Yeah. The crit chance of course on the executioner, but it does not have crit damage. But why does it show that? I'm 100% certain it has crit damage. Huh? No, I could have sworn I saw. I've seen crit damage on it. Huh? Okay, that's weird. Like, is it lying? No, of course, crit chance, crit damage. Of course, the good thing is that when it rolls a 6, the weapon's crit chance increases permanently, which is really, really good about the dice. So that. Now, I will say that I would definitely think that each weapon should have its own character and stuff. That like every weapon needs to have its own character, in my opinion. And I would definitely want to see either Projectile Bounce added as a tome, and maybe crit damage as a tome as well. But one thing, right, to fight against the Chaos Tome being as powerful as it is, right, is I've talked about this before, that maybe they should consolidate several like tomes into one instead. And stuff like that, right? And I thought about, okay, a tank tome, but maybe it shouldn't be called tank, maybe it should be called like warrior tome, and then warrior tome would be shield. It would be shield, it would be armor, shield, armor, and HP into one. But then maybe also add thorns into that, right? Because like thorns is good with armor, right, and stuff like that, right? And I just feel that would make more sense. And maybe you say that, oh, the HP region should be with that as well, and stuff like that. But then maybe you could have like a vampire tome that would be like region, like lifesteal, and maybe something else and stuff like that. So there could be a lot of interesting things they could combine together, right, in order to fight against the Chaos Tome being as powerful as it is. Now you can technically also still do good runs without the Chaos Tome, but it's just that the Chaos Tome is such a powerful effect, and I feel like it's, you know, like on some run, like Dice Head, it becomes even more insane and stuff like that because of the way that the Dice Head works. Because Dice Head gets, of course, and I believe is it every single level? I think it's every single level, right, on Dice Head. Yeah. Roll the dice and upgrade a random stat when you level up. That's just something you get every single time you level up. You get it and stuff like that, which is pretty good. And stuff like that, and the fact that his weapon, or the dice weapon itself, has that effect. Like, that's not an effect of the character. The crit chance increasing permanently, that is actually just an effect on the dice weapon itself. And stuff like that, but yeah. So Gamba is basically like having a built-in Chaos Tome that Dice Head has. And stuff like that, right? And, you know, you have that turn the Dice Head with some gold, you see like Phoenix Wright reference and stuff like that, but yeah. But you know, yeah. But Vlad is like really powerful, by the way, because like the first run I did, I managed to get to rank 21 because it was my best like tier 1 run that I'd ever done and stuff like that, right? Micro that actually looks pretty funny. Yeah. So yeah, so you know, so the whole idea is, you know, that you get some. But then like Holy Book was very important here as well, like 100% max HP, 50 HP healing with now radiate damage to nearby enemies, which is really good. But yeah, but gas mask is like really important. Of course, like I believe that if you get like 2 gas masks, for example, then that's an insane buff, from my understanding, because technically, right, that gas mask, like the more ways you have to like do poison, like the better it gets and stuff like that. Of course, I was really unlucky and didn't get this because I was one more disease away from getting the CC hat, which went bad. And I'm pretty certain when I was microwaving keys during that run, I managed to lose one of the diseases. So that, but yeah. So I'm 37 out of 100 from the common shady guys. I'm 26 out of 80 from the rare. 9 out of 60 there from the epic, but it should actually be higher. But that is because I'm not doing the whole quick reset anymore when I'm doing a run. When I get like a game over during a run, I'll let it game over because that just tracks the progress in a better way. Because it seems like the progress doesn't get tracked if you quick reset. Like you could do a bunch of runs, quick reset, and you know that you bought from the shady guys several times. Like let's say you bought from a regular shady guys and you failed a bunch of runs in a row. Like I did so many graveyard runs, right? Like people might remember that I did when the graveyard had come out, I did so many graveyard runs. Because if I just go in on my character here, you can see like I have 88 runs on the graveyard. And sure, a lot of them was just trying to run through the first area, but then there were actually proper tries on the graveyard and stuff like that, so yeah, you know. So that is just something that is important, but yeah. Right, yeah. And yeah, and you know, and I didn't go with Curse Doll because I know that Curse Doll is really powerful. Now Curse Doll would of course be something that I would need in the aura maxing guide, so the next one will maybe be the aura maxing. I also thought about full arsenal, and full arsenal would basically be like sniper rifle, slaughter rocket, shotgun, and revolver to just be like firing as much stuff as possible. And a big part of that one would probably be to get the slot cannon, and then just have banish most of the other purples and stuff that, right, and then have like the slot cannon effect because it spawns missile upon killing enemies, and then you will just shoot so much stuff, right? And stuff that is the thought of that. And of course that would probably also go with backpack, like trying to get a lot of backpacks as well. And stuff that then probably turn off all the other blues, except for maybe Echo Shard and stuff that, right, you know. But then I also thought about oh, like a spooky build, and then you would go with like getting a lot of ghosts, getting the purple ghost, getting the soul harvester because that summons two homing souls and stuff that, you know. But you can say that the energy core could technically also be something that could be in like the full arsenal build and stuff that. Like I haven't thought about exactly everything that should be in the full arsenal. Then on the full arsenal build, you would have to start with someone that has a shooting weapon. So you would either have to use clank, or you would have to use bush, because the bush starts with sniper rifle. Clank starts with, but Clank has very, very low max health. So that he does get a shield though. Right, you actually get quite a bit of evasion actually on Bush. Stuff that, wow. Actually, evasion build might have been better on him. Although he doesn't get the execute effect of course, obviously, but yeah. So I think that should do it. That should probably do it for the Projectile guide. I know that my mind is a little bit all over the place, you know. I apologize for that, you know. Hopefully the audio won't crackle this time, you know, and stuff that, like, hopefully. I mean, it might still do it, right, because I don't know if it is something with that the USB port has gotten faulty or whatever, right, or whatever it is, right, because, you know, I mean, I used to have problems with it way back in the day on my old YouTube channel and stuff that, right, the one that deleted and stuff that, right, you know. But you know, but I deleted it on my own free will. It wasn't that it got like banned or anything. It was that I deleted it myself and stuff that, right, because you know, I've talked about that story like a long time ago, you know, and stuff that, but yeah, because you know, my first YouTube channel I did like a long time ago, like almost like YouTube had only existed for like 1 or 2 years, I think, when I started YouTube or whatever, right, you know, so yeah. But anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this, you know, and stuff that, and as I said, you know, I'm like planning on doing a full arsenal build at some point, planning on doing like an aura maxing, and the aura maxing would use all the aura weapons. It would use flame walker, it would use aura, it would use frost talk, and then of course I would be using black hole, which also gets affected by size. Tome wise, I think I would go with size. It's just given the size of like projectile explosion some more, and then I would probably go with XP Tome. I would probably go with curse, because curse is very, very helpful just to spawn more enemies so you can get more. And I would go with damage because I know that damage is the main problem with like the fact the flame walker, aura, frost walker on their own, they don't get super high damage, so that would be really important and stuff that, so yeah. And stuff that, so yeah. And black hole, actually, if you get like a lot of size on it, it can become like pretty powerful as well, and stuff that, so yeah. So that would be the whole goal of a build like that, you know, and stuff that, but yeah. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this and stuff that, and you know, I know I didn't explain super well about the things, right? I mean, like, the goal is, you know, like, you want to get like more diseases, and there are certain things that I would say that you don't want to ban. Like, wrenches are very, very good to leave up use because it strengthens their wall, right? like you want to banish like Borger, you want to banish like Clover, as I said. You want to not banish Slippery Wing, because having a couple of Slippery Wings can be really good, because the evasion can still help when you have like a lot of armor, because then basically like, oh, if you don't take very little there, or if you don't take damage from this hit, then you have a chance to evade instead, you know, and stuff like that. But yeah, but I would say maybe ban the Slippery Wing once you get a certain amount. You can of course also ban certain blues and stuff like that if you don't like them and stuff like that, right? It's up to you. But you ban, but yeah, for example, like getting like a lot of batteries is very, very good. Getting lots of Tembrice is good, getting a lot of ranges is good, getting a lot of cheese of course is good. The gym souls can really, really help with the damage, by the way, and yeah, the keys are very important as well. Projectile count is very, very good if you get a bunch of backpacks early. And moldy gloves is good if you get them. Echo shards is very important, and if you get a blue microwave, it's the echo shards that you want to do, even if you end up losing like moldy gloves and stuff like that. But yeah. And of course, this other cannon is just very, very good, because the fact that it shoots missiles when you kill stuff and stuff, that means that during a swarm wave it can really help a lot to make it like to make surviving easier and stuff like that. Toxic battle is just insane and stuff like that. And maybe I should have had like demonic soul off, and maybe had the other blue off here, demonic blood as well. But they can, you know, if you get a lot of kills, they can become like really, really good and stuff like that. So, yeah. But yeah, hope you all enjoy this, and I see you all next time.